Welcome back, everybody. And oh boy, do we have a show for you tonight. You are not going to believe some of the stuff that we are going to show. I'm still laughing about some of it. So we're going to show you that not only do some of the missionaries that a lot of people are following today and that are getting quite a large following on places like TikTok and Facebook and YouTube and all that fun stuff, that these missionaries that a lot of people are following, they don't even know what they're talking about. They don't even know the basics of what they're talking about. They use manipulation. They high-five themselves. They pat themselves on the shoulder. Oh, man, are they having a good time. Anyway, it's just so good. It's so juicy. I want to get into it like right away. But first, I want to start off with some of the manipulation that these guys use. We're not going to get into it too long, just like a minute or two. And then we're going to go straight into Isaiah chapter 7. Let's do it.
Here's the anti-missionary claims against the New Testament.
So the rabbinic approach would be that the word Alma
if you look at the Jewish rabbinic interpretations...
I don't know if you know, Jews are confused. Is it Hezekiah or is it Isaiah?
However, many Jewish rabbis and scholars claim that this prophecy was not about a virgin at all.
Who is familiar with rabbinical arguments of Isaiah 7?
Who would be born of a virgin. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know, there is nothing that gets more heavily contested by the anti-missionaries and by others who are haters other than Isaiah 7.
So we're the haters? Okay. But let's just look at some of the words that they're using for just a second, and let's see if they even have the leg room to stand on to call us the haters. But they say rabbinics, and things like anti-missionary because it's super negative, right? Anti, you're against. And then they say that the Jews are confused, which is hilarious considering what I'm about to expose. But the point I wanted to bring up here really quick before we get into the bulk of this is that this is all just a repeat of everything from their New Testament. They're facing off against the imaginary Pharisees again, where the Pharisees didn't understand the law and they misconstrued it. And if you even look up the Wikipedia article on Pharisees, it even connects it to rabbinic Judaism, which is why they throw rabbinics out there. But now, let's get into the good stuff. Let's see what the missionaries actually have to say about Isaiah chapter 7, and let's see if they even know what they're talking about.
Fulfillment, or is Isaiah 7 having its context, which is that there's a civil war going on, and we have verse 6 where it says the fear that they have, right? Because the fear that they have is important. That's the setup for the chapter. Yep. That they're going to come in, they're going to invade and make the son of Tavil king over you, right? Why is this a problem? Well, the Torah says in Genesis 49:10 that we're not allowed to have anyone other than Judah sit on the throne of Judah. And Ahaz is, he's the king of Judah, unrighteous that he may be, he's still the king of Judah. And so this would thwart the promise of God. And in that thwarting of the promise of God, what's going on? So it's not that
So if these two kings, the king of Aram and the king of Assyria, who is also called Ephraim, wanted to come against Ahaz and depose him and put another guy called Tabeel in place, this affected the future coming of the Messiah. This was a threat to them, at least in their perspective. And this would have brought...
Wait a minute. Did he just say that Syria and Ephraim were the same? Let me re-listen to that.
These two kings, the king of Aram and the king of Assyria, who is also called Ephraim, wanted to come...
Okay, well, that was pretty clear. He states that Syria is Ephraim. And just to give you guys a little bit of background on how this works, it is actually the northern kingdom that is considered Ephraim. There are two kingdoms currently going on because there is a division and a civil war going on. The kingdom to the south is considered the kingdom of Judah or Judah. And the kingdom to the north, that is where the 10 tribes are, or what would become like the 10 lost tribes. It is considered the kingdom of Israel and is also known as Ephraim. Ephraim is not connected to Assyria. Ephraim is directly connected to the northern tribes. So, you know what? Let's think favorably of him. Even though he very clearly stated that Syria was Ephraim, maybe as he reads through Isaiah, he'll self-correct. Let's take a look.
Of Israel would no longer be recognized as a people. And then we go down to 7a. What it said? For the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin. And what will happen? Okay, in 60 and I want to find the passage I'm talking about here. Sorry, 7:8. Let's go down. Okay. For the head of, and now within another 65 years, here we go. Ephraim will be shattered. Ladies and gentlemen, Ephraim is a code word for the northern kingdom that is.
Well, isn't that adorable? He starts off by saying that the kingdom of Assyria is definitely Ephraim, and then as he's actually reading Isaiah and he gets to Damascus, you hear this, apparently he lost a verse that he was actually just on, and then when he finds the verse that he was just on, he immediately clarifies himself by calling Ephraim a code word for the northern kingdom. Yeah. Well, you guys believe whatever you want. But let's take a look at who this guy is. So it looks like he's got a YouTube channel called Radar Apologetics. Okay, this guy's got several links on his YouTube channel, and one of them goes to a website called Rabbi Eduardo. Now, here's the thing. If you're not Jewish, and you're not born to a Jewish mother, and you were not halakhically Jewish at all, right? You didn't convert or anything like that. You've got no business calling yourself a rabbi. It's cultural appropriation, and it needs to stop. If you are following the person and the teachings of Yeshu, then you are not a Jew. Even though Yeshu was a Jew, if you're following him, you're not a Jew. You are a Christian. And if you want more clarity on that, go watch our videos on exposing Messianic Jews. Okay? Period. The end. That title rabbi exclusively belongs to the Jewish people. It is a Hebrew term. It does not belong to Christians. Your New Testament was never originally written in Hebrew. It was written in Greek. Stay away from the Jewish people. Stay away from us. Stay away from our terms, our words, everything. It's not yours. And if you want it to be yours, then submit yourself to the rabbis. Put your ego aside for a second. Get rid of the Pharisee conspiracy theory inside of your head. And actually go learn at a yeshiva with the rabbis. Go learn from the Jews about the Jewish religion. Okay? But you got no business at all calling yourself a rabbi. If somebody has not gone to yeshiva and they're not ordained, they're not a rabbi. Period. The end of story. That's it. That's it. This actually hurts people. There are people who've worked very hard in their lives to become a rabbi, and then this guy's going to go out there and say that he's a rabbi? Really? No, he's not. He can call himself a pastor, a priest, whatever he wants to call, but he's not a rabbi. Even though it means teacher, it exclusively belongs to the Jewish religion, and I dare you to challenge me on that. So, moving on, because this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, this is how it all starts, though. It's people like this. They get it in their head that they know better than everybody else. They don't have any business spreading this stuff. But look, he's got like 6,000 followers. I don't even know how many, biblical apologetics has. I don't have it in front of me right now. But these people, my goodness, they get so many followers and then they just confuse. That's how many people that he is misleading. That he is literally just confusing their minds. I also looked a little bit into some of the other stuff that he has. And I clicked the link right where it says to go shopping. And he's got apparel. And then apparently you can get a hoodie that says something about being a chicken nugget. So you want to follow the chicken nugget rabbi? Go for it. But he's not a rabbi. And I don't even think that the chicken nuggets he's going to offer you are kosher. But whatever. Let's get into Isaiah chapter 7 and debunk what these people have to say about it. Okay, so let's look at the missionary claims from biblical apologetics and radar apologetics. They basically think that when Isaiah was sent to go talk to King Ahaz, right, by Hashem, that the whole goal was to ensure King Ahaz that the scepter would not depart from Judah because the southern kingdom was under threat. And one thing that the Christians got right about our Jewish religion is we do think that Mashiach will come from the line of David, hence Mashiach ben David. So that is one thing that they did get correct about our religion. What we do not think is that Isaiah was actually sent to King Ahaz to ensure him of that. And the reason why that they need to make this circular logic is because we pro-Torah highlighters have been stating for quite a while now that it doesn't make any sense for Isaiah to give King Ahaz a prophecy that would happen 700 years later. Now, some mainstream Christians will give a double-layered prophecy explanation, which we'll debunk in just a minute. But let's get rid of this one right now since it's circulating and making its way around the interwebs. So, here's why that doesn't work. In Isaiah, verse 1, let's take a look at that because that's going to give us a big indication as to why there's going to be a child born. Okay, so the secret to this actually lies in verse 1. Let's read it together. It says, in chapter 7 of Isaiah, verse 1, in the reign of Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, King Rezin of Aram, and King Pekah of Remaliah of Israel, marched upon Jerusalem to attack it, but they were not able to attack it. There are 3 kings mentioned here. 1, you've got Ahaz, then you've got Rezin, and then you've got Pekah. 3 kings. Only King Ahaz and King Pekah are described as son of. So in verse 2, everybody finds out that they're going to get invaded. And in verse 3, Hashem sends Isaiah to go talk to the king. And here's what it says in verse 4. Pay very close attention. And say to him, be firm and be calm. Do not be afraid and do not lose heart on account of those 2 smoking stubs of firebrands, on account of the raging of Rezin and his Arameans and the son of Remaliah. Oh, that was interesting. Notice how it says son of Remaliah, right? It doesn't say King Pekah. Oh, no, it says son of Remaliah. Why would it say that? Let's keep going. Okay, so now let's read verse 5 and 6. Because of the Arameans with Ephraim and the son of Remaliah, there it is again, the son of Remaliah, have plotted against you, saying, we will march against Judah and invade and conquer it, and we will set up as king in it, son of Tabeel. Okay, all right, now let's go into verse 7 because it's going to really put the nail in the coffin on this. Now in verse 7, it's going to start to tie it all up. Thus said my sovereign God, it shall not succeed. It shall not come to pass. Okay, so do you understand what's going on here? Hashem is saying, because of X, Y, and Z, it's not going to succeed. Well, what is X, Y, and Z? It is because it is the son of Remaliah. It is because of, they don't have any merit to stand on. This is why in verse 1, it's talking about the fact that King Ahaz has the merit, right, of his ancestors. He's got the merit of his forefathers. And I'm not going back to all the way to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. No, I'm talking about his immediate father, grandfather, things like that. The kings that are mentioned in verse 1. That is why Ahaz is going to win this particular battle. And that is why the northern kingdom is going to fail, because they don't have the merit. He comes from Ramaliah. There's no merit there. That's why these names are specifically mentioned. And right before Hashem says, "Thus said my sovereign God, it shall not succeed." Because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Why would Hashem send Isaiah to King Ahaz, right? To tell him, look, they're not going to win this battle, but in 65 years, they're going to kick your teeth in. It is because of the merit that this battle they will not win. But because Ahaz is a wicked person, and we're going to prove that in just a second, it doesn't last. You can't just fly on the coattails of somebody else's merit forever. So let's look at where it points out specifically that King Ahaz is a wicked person. It tells us that he's wicked in the very next verse. In verse 9, it says, the chief city of Ephraim is Samaria, and the chief of Samaria is the son of Ramaliah. And in another 65 years, Ephraim shall be shattered as a people. If you will not believe, for you cannot be trusted. Oh, what does that last line actually mean? It's basically stating that he will not believe because he himself cannot be believed. It's kind of like a liar never trusts other people because they themselves are liars. Or like thieves will have more protection and locks and security checks all over their house because they themselves are thieves. They're always worried about their stuff getting stolen. So because Ahaz is the kind of person where you can't believe anything that he's saying, he's not going to believe anything anybody else is saying because that's who he actually is. It's a reflection of himself. That's what verse 9 means. That's the wicked part that's going to ruin it for everybody. That's why he can't fly on the coattails of somebody else's merit forever. However, Hashem always gives us an opportunity to perform teshuvah. If you look here, it said, God spoke further, and this is verse 10, to Ahaz, ask for a sign from the eternal, your God, anywhere, down to Sheol or up to the sky. But Ahaz replied, I will not ask, and I will not test God. Remember how we just said that he doesn't believe anybody because he himself cannot be believed? Yeah, it's not that he doesn't want to test God. He just doesn't believe in any of it, so he's being dismissive. And Hashem himself is giving prophecy to Isaiah to put an end to this nonsense. So Hashem says, look, I'm going to prove this guy wrong. He wants to be that fence sitter. He wants to just sit there and not believe in me. Fine. I'm going to give him a sign. Here's the sign. And that's where Isaiah 7:14 comes in. Okay, so after Hashem basically tells Ahaz that ask for a sign from the eternal, right? Here is Ahaz's reply. But Ahaz replied, I will not ask, and I will not test God. He's not saying that because he doesn't want to test God. He's being dismissive. He doesn't care. He's an atheist. Okay? When it comes to an atheist, all that he sees really is that there's this guy coming to show up. It's annoying to him. He's saying that he's getting a word from the Lord, and he doesn't believe Isaiah. He thinks that he's just a crazy guy talking to an invisible deity. So when he says he's not going to test God, he's doing that to appease Isaiah. He doesn't believe in God. He's an atheist, an agnostic here. He's being dismissive. It's not that he's so, pious that he doesn't want to test the Lord. Now let's read verse 13. So in verse 13, we see it all play out. It says, listen, O house of David, Isaiah retorted. Is it not enough for you to treat the agents as helpless that you also treat my God as helpless? What does it mean to treat God as helpless? It's an atheist. It's an agnostic. It's somebody who doesn't even believe in Hashem. He's this king who's highly annoyed that here comes this prophet, giving him the word of the Lord, and he doesn't believe it. And Isaiah knows it. Hashem knows it. He doesn't believe it. So then we get to verse 14. My sovereign will give you a sign nonetheless. That means despite your lack of faith, despite the fact that you don't trust anything, therefore you cannot be trusted. Despite all of that, right? Look, the young woman, Alma, is with child and about to give birth to a son. Let her name him Emmanuel. Do you notice how it says about to give birth? We've already gone through what Alma actually means. But this is the whole point of the child that is being prophesied in verse 14. It can't happen 700 years later. How is that going to help an atheist? That's not going to help anybody who doesn't believe in God. Okay? That means nothing. Do you really think that somebody like King Ahaz is really worried about the prophecy in Genesis 49:10? No. He's not even concerning himself. He's not even assured by the prophecy he's currently getting. No, so it's not to assure him, because this guy doesn't have any faith. He doesn't trust, therefore he cannot be trusted. Also, it doesn't make sense to say, look, I know that you're really worried about this prophecy in Genesis, so I'm just going to give you another prophecy. That's stupid. If you really want to prove to somebody that a prophecy is going to happen, then you make it happen right then and there. That's what a sign is. Okay? It happens right then, right there. So, especially in this scenario. Now let's go on to verse 15. Verse 15, by the time he learns to reject the bad and choose the good, people will be feeding on curds and honey. Now I really want to get into 16 because this is where it's going to bring it home. For before the lad knows to reject the bad and choose the good, the ground whose two kings, you dread, you as in King Ahaz, shall be abandoned. If this is some sort of prophecy for 700 years in the future, who are the two kings? It doesn't pertain to anything in the New Testament, okay? They may have tried to make it that way because these prophecies came first, but that's not what it's saying here. It is specifically giving this atheist, this wicked king, a sign for right now. Because, again, an atheist or an agnostic or whatever, somebody who doesn't trust anybody, this reassuring him of a prophecy isn't going to do squat. But this right here, before the lad knows to reject bad and to choose good. And it says two kings you dread. Whose two kings you dread? Come on. It would take mental gymnastics to say that verse 16 is not talking about King Ahaz. And because this video is already so long, we are going to go straight into chapter 8, verse 3. I was intimate with the prophetess, and she conceived and bore a son. And God said to me, name him, and I really, really hope I pronounce this name correctly. Forgive me if I don't. Maher-shalal Hashbaz. What a name. So let's figure out exactly why Isaiah named his son this name. Now, this explanation here I actually got from Jews for Judaism. And I would highly recommend it to anybody who is trying to figure all of this out. Or for people who even disagree with me. All right. This is what they say about the name, okay? It is fulfilled in the next chapter with the birth of a child to the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah, approached the prophetess, and she conceived Tahar and bore Taled a son. And God said to me, name the child. I don't ever like saying this name. I'm not really good at it. Maher-shalal Hashbaz, which means the spoil speeds and the prey hastens. For before the child shall know how to cry, my father, my mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria will be carried away before the king of Assyria. So the spoil speeds, the prey hastens. It's directly talking about the civil war, the conflict. The fact that this child being born is going to be a sign for this atheist, agnostic, obnoxious king Ahaz, right? That is really dismissive of Hashem. That's why he's got this name. It's because the child is the sign. Okay? Woo! I started to lose my voice there at the end, and I'm still kind of losing it, talking a little bit too much. It's a sign that it's about time to wrap this video up. So, do other missionaries have anything to say about this? Because biblical apologetics already admits that other people, such as Dr. Brown, don't agree with her. So let's see what some of the other missionaries have to say.
As if he was on the immediate horizon of history. This was a prophecy for the days of Ahaz. It was. It spoke of a birth that was imminent, and we don't know much about that birth. We don't know how it was fulfilled. But
does that make any sense to anybody? That he admits that literally the child mentioned in Isaiah 7:14, okay, it was a sign for King Ahaz, but they don't know how it was fulfilled? Yes, they do. The Jews have explained it. The Jews have explained it. They always circle back to one thing, though. Let's take a look at it.
Either way, this is the birth he's referring to, and he's explaining this Alma was a virgin, and that it was a supernatural birth, and God did say there would be a sign, there would be some kind of a sign, right?
Nowhere in Isaiah 7, and we just read this together, does it say that there's going to be a supernatural sign. Nowhere does it say that at all. There's going to be a sign, like a supernatural sign, like a virgin birth. No, it doesn't say that. The New Testament says that, not the Tanakh. Nowhere does it say that it's going to be a supernatural sign. Okay? Period. The end. But there's just something that doesn't sit right with me about this, because there's one thing that we haven't brought up, and that is the fact that they kept mentioning the house of David. We're going to debunk that, and as soon as we do, we will be concluding this video.
This was the plot that Ephraim and Syria had. Verse 6, let us go up against Judah and terrify it, and let us conquer it for ourselves, and set up the son of Tavel as king in the midst of it. In other words, let's get rid of Ahaz. Let's overthrow the Davidic dynasty, the one to whom the promises have come, the messianic promises, the promises of the great king from the line of David. They're saying, let's replace this current dynasty with someone that we put in. So it was literally an attack on the house of David, on the dynasty of David, and therefore on the messianic promises. And God tells faithless Ahaz that he's going to give him a...
Well, there it is. They think that the entire reason that the house of David is mentioned is because that, I'm going to put it like the biblical apologetics put it, that they want to thwart, I hate that word, thwart the coming of Mashiach. So this what would mean that they believed in Judaism and they wanted to prevent the Messiah from coming? It's a little strange. Possible, but strange. However, what do our sages actually say about it? Well, there's a couple things. One is that they did not actually mention Ahaz by name in the instances where it says the house of David, because he was a wicked person. And so when the prophet was speaking in certain regards, he didn't want to mention his name. So he said the house of David. Secondly, King Ahaz is from the house of David. the whole southern kingdom is known to be from the tribe of Judah. Okay, that's just a fact. So there's nothing that indicates here that mentioning the house of David over and over again is significant for the Mashiach. The reason why they want to put Mashiach on here is because if you notice that Dr. Brown is saying that yes, it's relevant to King Ahaz, but then contradicts himself and saying that they don't even mention the birth taking place. But he admits that the birth in Isaiah 7 is for King Ahaz, right? And then simultaneously, also a messianic prophecy because they mention the house of David. So that would mean that there would be a virgin birth for King Ahaz, right, for that sign, because he admits that this sign was for that time. And then also states that this particular verse, Isaiah 7:14, was a sign for Yeshu. And again, I'm going to reference you back to Jews for Judaism because it's called a double layer prophecy that they beautifully debunk. Beautifully debunk. But they're making a valid point here. And even Rashi states in his commentary that one of the reasons that they don't mention him by name when it says the house of David is because he's a wicked person. And there's a very particular way that Ahaz, or the house of David, Isaiah is addressing Ahaz at that moment when he's giving that prophecy. That is a commentary by Rashi. So we've got three things here. One, he's a wicked person and they didn't want to mention his name. He's actually from the house of David, so there's nothing inaccurate about it, and it could just be another way of addressing him. And three, these missionaries want to claim that it's a double-level prophecy, that somehow it absolutely applies to King Ahaz, but there is no mention of how that's fulfilled. They admit that yeah, it's a sign for him, but they don't go into how it's fulfilled. But that it's also going to reference Yeshu. It doesn't work like that, because then you would have two virgin births. Now, I want to talk about this need for a virgin birth. In our next video, we are going to go over how it would actually be if everybody thought that Isaiah 7:14 meant virgin. Because a lot of the claims are that the Jews always knew that this was referencing some sort of miraculous birth. That it was always talking about a virgin. I mean, even One for Israel blatantly states that Rashi knew this, but then changed his stance on what Alma actually meant because he was debating Christians and just wanted to debunk Yeshu. So if we're going to fly with that, and let's just assume, hypothetically, that everybody thought that Isaiah 7:14 was referring to an actual virgin birth pertaining to the Mashiach, what would that have actually looked like for the young ladies of Israel? We're going to get into that in our next video. Thanks for watching, guys.